We are working on Excel, Project Review 1. We are in the beginning part of the project called FT Sales. The first task wants us to go ahead and rename this tab and call it Sales Data. There are a few ways to do this, but I normally just double click on the sheet here, and we can go ahead and type that. Capital S, capital D. Make sure you hit enter when you're done to set that text, and we'll go ahead and mark that that task was completed. The next task wants us to go ahead and change the color of this worksheet tab. So what we can do here is on Sales Data, we're going to go ahead and right click. We're going to go ahead and hover over Tab Color. And then what we're looking for is Blue Accent 5. You want to make sure you hover if you're not sure, and we'll select that. We'll mark that we completed the task. The final task wants us to go ahead and rename the other two worksheets, and we're going to change the name of the second worksheet. So what we can do is we'll double click on Sheet 2. We'll go ahead and type in quarter totals. It tells us to change the color of this one to Orange Accent 2. And then what we're going to do is rename Sheet 3 to Employee Record. And we'll go ahead and mark that we completed this task. We are working on Excel Project Review 1. We're on the Sales Data Worksheet tab. And so what you want to do is before we begin, we want to make sure that we're on that worksheet. And our first task wants us to go ahead and use the Merge and Center to merge and center just a few ranges here, beginning with A1 to F1. So we'll go ahead and click and select that range. We're on the Home tab, we're in the Alignment group, and we can actually just click this button here, Merge and Center. And it wants us to do it for A2 to F2, A3 to F3, and A4 to F4. We'll go ahead and mark that we completed that task. This task wants us to go ahead and apply a few styles to different ranges. Starting with A1, we'll go ahead and select that cell, and it wants us to apply the title. So we're on the Home tab, we're in the Styles group, we're going to click this More drop down here, and we're going to go ahead and select Title. It says that for A2 to A4, we're going to go ahead and apply the explanatory style. So I've gone ahead and selected those cells. We're back here in the Styles group, and we're looking for explanatory. So we'll select that. Now it tells us to select A5 to F5. And with that range selected, we're going to go ahead and select Heading 2 in the Styles group. And for A16 to F16, we'll go ahead and select that range. We're going to go ahead and apply the Totals style. So we're back here in the drop down here. We're going to select Total. We'll go ahead and mark that we completed that task. This task wants us to go ahead and change the column width of A to 20. What I normally do is put my cursor in between these two cells and then right click. We'll go ahead and click Column Width. We'll change this to 20. And then it wants us to select B through F columns. And this time we're going to change it to 10. So we'll right click here in between. We'll go to Column Width and we'll type in 10. We'll click OK. We'll go ahead and check that we completed that task. This task wants us to go ahead and sort our range here. What we're looking at is A6 to F15. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to select the row 5 in the selection because that's our headers. It'll make it easier when we go to sort it. So we are going on the Home tab, we're going to the Editing group, Sort and Filter. We'll go ahead and select Custom Sort. Now remember we had our header row selected and we have this checkbox selected. The benefit of having that row selected is now our columns have the headings here. It's going to make it easier to select sales rep. Now you could do it without it, but it just makes your life just that much easier. And we have it A to Z. We'll go ahead and click OK. And we'll go ahead and mark that we completed that task. This task wants us to go ahead and apply some conditional formatting to the range F6 to F15. So we'll go ahead and select that range. It tells us that it's going to be the icon set style. It's the 3 arrows. So we're on the Home tab. We're in the Styles group. We want to go ahead and click the conditional formatting drop down. We're going to go ahead and select New Rule. In this section, we're going to go ahead and click Icon Sets. And then we're going to change our icon style to the 3 arrows. So it's this one right here. It's the colored ones. And then it tells us that we want to display a green arrow for any value that's greater than or equal to 30,000. So the first thing we want to do, because both of our values are not going to be percentages, they're going to be numbers. And it's already set here for greater than or equal to, and what we'll type in is 30,000. For the second section, what we want to do is 20,000 according to our step. And we'll go ahead and click OK. We'll go ahead and mark that we completed this task. This task wants us to go ahead and insert the sum function for B16. So we'll go ahead and put our cursor here. It tells us that the range what we want to add up is B6 to B15. Now this is a simple formula. You could just do equal sum and type it out, but I would encourage you to either use this auto sum here or use the insert function. It's up to you. I have seen on GMetrix where using this gives you the subtotal function set instead of typing in sum, and GMetrix has marked you wrong. They could have fixed that, but just be mindful of that. I'm going to go ahead and do insert function. We'll do sum. We'll select that function. And what we want to do here is just select that range, B6 to B15. We'll go ahead and click OK. And then we'll go ahead and mark that that task is completed. This task wants us to go ahead and use the function that we just created in B16. And it wants us to copy it over through F16. Now here in this step, it's mentioning relative reference. That's how we selected our range here. Notice it's just B6 to B15. That is a relative reference. Most of the function that you key in will probably be that. An absolute reference has dollar signs in it. So we're going to go ahead and, with this cursor selected, you could do Control C and paste it, Control V throughout, or you can, with this cell selected, we have the black cross here, and what we can do is just click and drag all the way to F16. And because it's a relative reference, notice that as I click through the columns, it changes C, D, and E, F. If it wasn't a relative reference, the reference would have stayed the same here. It would have always been B for each column. We'll go ahead and mark that we completed that task. This task wants us to go ahead and define a named range for B16 to E16. It tells us to exclude F16. And there are a few ways to do this, but in my opinion, the easiest way is to go ahead and select your range. And in the name box, go ahead and type in quarter totals. Make sure you capitalize both the Q and the T. And when you're done, you want to just go ahead and hit the enter key to set that range. We'll go ahead and mark that that task was completed. This task wants us to just simply key in some text. So it tells us in A18 to go ahead and type in largest sale. And we'll go ahead and hit enter to set our text. And we'll go ahead and check that we completed that task. This task wants us to go ahead and insert the max function to go ahead and report the largest value in the range of F6 to F15. The max function will go ahead and display the largest number in a range. So what we want to do is put our cursor here in B18. We'll go to the insert function here at the top. We'll type in max. We'll go ahead and click OK. And then for our number one range, we're just going to go ahead and select this range, F6 to F15. We'll go ahead and click OK. And it brought back the largest number there. We'll go ahead and check that we completed that task. This task wants us to go ahead and select F16 to F15. And it wants us to create a clustered column chart. So with that range selected, we're going to go to the Insert tab here at the top. You can check Recommended Charts if you're not sure which one in this section, All Charts. And from here, the first one is Clustered Column. If you're not sure, make sure you hover, and we'll click OK. And it tells us to go ahead and position that chart below our data. We'll click off that, and we'll go ahead and check that we completed that task. This task wants us to go ahead and apply some formatting to this chart. So to do that, we're going to go ahead and select our chart again. Because we have that selected, we have the Chart Tools, Design, and Format tab here at the top. The one we want to select is Design. It wants us to change the style to 7. Our styles are here in the Chart Styles group. We want to hover until we find style 7, and we'll go ahead and select that. It tells us that we want to add the title, Sales by Rep. And so to do that, we can just go ahead and double click here in the title. It tells us to go ahead and add the horizontal axis labels from A6 to A15. And so we'll click off our title here. And what we want to do is, still we have the chart selected, so we have the Chart Tools Design tab. We want to be in the data group, and we're going to select Data. And from here, the horizontal axis labels is what we're editing. We'll go ahead and select Edit here. And I want you to pay attention down here, because when I select these names, notice that the numbers change to names. We'll go ahead and click OK. and we'll click OK here. The next format it wants us to do is to add data labels. So with the chart selected, we can go ahead and click this chart elements button. We want to go ahead and do data labels. We'll click the arrow because it tells us that it wants it on the outside end. And then it tells us to go ahead and add the alternate title, sales by rep. And so if you have this chart selected, we can right click here, and then we can click here, edit all text. 365 has kind of changed this screen. In the past, it had a title. In this section, you had the ability to add a description. We're just going to go ahead and put the sales by rep, but note that on the test, you'll have that ability. When you're done typing, go ahead and close out of that. And we'll go ahead and mark that we completed that task. This task wants us to go ahead and insert the FT logo into this document. So what we'll do is we'll click off of our chart just so we don't have that selected. We'll go to the Insert tab here at the top. We're in the Illustrations group. We can go ahead and select Pictures. You'll want to map to your GMetrix Templates folder. From here, we'll go ahead and select FT logo, and we'll go ahead and insert that. And then we'll go ahead and drag that to the top left corner of this worksheet. And we'll go ahead and mark that we completed this task. This task wants us to go ahead and crop the image that we just inserted. We're going to change the width to 1.1, and then we're going to apply a picture effect. So we'll go ahead and select this image. Because we have it selected, we have the Picture Tools Format tab here at the top. We're in the Size group. We want to go ahead and click the Crop button here, and it tells us to go ahead and crop it just so that the logo remains. Go ahead and hit Crop here. We'll change the width to 1.1. It tells us to go ahead and apply the picture effect Full Reflection 4-point offset. We're in the Picture Styles. We're going to click Picture Effects drop down. We're in the Reflection group, and we're looking for the 4-point offset. Here's our Full Reflection 4-point offset. If you're not sure, make sure you hover before you select the style that you're applying, and we'll go ahead and mark that that task is completed. This task wants us to go ahead and change the page orientation and then change the page size to legal. We want to go to the Page Layout tab here at the top. In the Page Setup group, we'll go ahead and select Orientation. We'll change it to Landscape. And then what we want to do is for the size here, it tells us to select legal, so we'll go ahead and do that, and we'll mark that we completed this task. This task wants us to go ahead and insert a page break. We'll put that page break on row 19, so we'll go ahead and we'll just select the number 19 in the row section, and then we're on the Page Layout tab. We're in the Page Setup group. We want to select this Breaks drop down, and then we're going to select Insert Page Break, and we'll go ahead and mark that that task is completed. We are in Excel Project Review 1. We're in the Quarter Totals worksheet, so we'll want to go ahead and select that worksheet down here at the bottom. The first task wants us to go ahead and display the values in B16 from the sales data worksheet on this page. So here we have our cursor here in B4. What we want to do is key the equal sign on our keyboard. Then we're going to go ahead and click the Sales Data Worksheet tab, and what we want to select is B16 here. And then you want to make sure you don't click back here on Quarter Totals because it's going to flip our sheet name here to Quarter Totals. All you need to do from here is go ahead and hit the Enter key on your keyboard, and it went ahead and displayed that number. We want to do the same for the other 3 quarters. When you're done with that step, we'll go ahead and check that we completed that task. This task is going to go ahead and have us use the if function to go ahead and display text based upon the numbers here in this worksheet. So the first thing it wants us to do is to go to C5, and it tells us we're going to use the if function. So we'll go to the Insert Function tab here at the top. We'll go ahead and type in the if at the top and click Go. Here we'll go ahead and select OK with if selected. And our first task is going to be to determine if the Q2 sales is higher than Q1. So what we'll do is we're going to go ahead and select B5, or you can type it, and then what we want to do is go ahead and key in the greater than symbol on our keyboard. We'll select now B4, or you can type it in, and what we're asking is the Q2 sales greater than the Q1 sales. Next section is going to go ahead and display the text increase if it's true. I'm going to hit tab, and if it's false, we're going to see decrease, and we'll go ahead and click OK. And here it says that it is a decrease, and that's true. We're going to do the same function in C6 and C7. For the second one, it'll look at is Q3 higher than Q2, and for the other one, it's going to be is Q4 higher than Q3. Go ahead and check that this task is completed. The next task wants us to go ahead and do the sum function in B8. It wants us to add up these numbers here, but instead of using this range in our sum function, what it wants us to use is the quarter totals named range that we created in the previous worksheet. So what we want to do here is we'll go ahead and use the insert function. We'll go ahead and type in sum. We'll click OK. And here in the number, what we want to do is type in quarter totals. And notice that that named range brought these numbers in, and we'll click OK. We'll go ahead and check that we completed that task. This task wants us to go ahead and set our print area. It tells us to go ahead and select the range A1 to B8. We're on the Layout tab here at the top. We're in the Page Setup group, and what we want to do is click this Print Area drop-down, and we'll go ahead and set print area. We'll go ahead and check that we completed the task. We are working on Excel Project Review 1. We're on the section called Employee Record Worksheet. We want to go ahead and begin by checking the Employee Worksheet tab here at the bottom before we begin doing anything. And let's go ahead and look at the first task. It wants us to go ahead and format a cell range to a table. So it tells us A1 to C11, and it tells us to apply the table style light 14. What I'm going to do, there are a few ways to do this. I'm going to go to the Home tab though. We're going to be in the Styles group, and we're going to select Format as Table, and what we're looking for is Table Style Light 14. So we're going to look here in the Light group, and we're going to look for the number 14. If you're not sure, make sure you hover until you find it. And I will note that before I click this, notice it says green comma Table Style Light 14. That's something that's been added in the update, but it's still the correct answer. It has Table Style Light 14 in it. Go ahead and select that. Right here, it's just confirming the range that we already selected. It's true, and our data does have headers, so we'll keep that checked. We'll click OK. And we'll go ahead and check that we completed that task. This task wants us to go ahead and change the date format here in the B column. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and select that range. We're on the Home tab. In the Number group, click the Dialog Launcher box here. We want to select Date, and what we're looking for is this specific formatting, 14-March-2012, and it's the very last one. With that selected, we'll go ahead and click OK. We'll go ahead and check that we completed that task. This task wants us to go ahead and change the column width of A and B, which is a good thing because Excel here is telling us with these pound signs that our cells are not wide enough to display the content that's in there. There's nothing wrong with the information there. It just can't display it. Let's go ahead and start by changing our column A. And what I normally do is I just put my cursor between the two columns, and when my cursor changes to the line and two arrows, I right click. Here we're going to go ahead and click column width. We'll change this to 20, and then we're going to do the same thing for B. We're going to change it to 15. So I'll right click here, I'll select column width, and I'll type in 15. And now notice the pound signs went away. We're having no issues with the display of our content in those cells. We'll go ahead and check that we completed that task. This task wants us to go ahead and use the table filters to display only the values that are greater than 20% here. So what we can do is just click this button here. That's our filter. And what we want to do is create a number filter, and it says greater than 20. So here we'll click that, and we'll go ahead and type in 20. We'll click OK. And now it's displaying only the percentage greater than 20. We'll go ahead and check that we completed that task. This task wants us to go ahead and apply a footer to this worksheet. So we're going to go to the Insert tab here at the top. We're going to go to the text group over here. We'll select Header and Footer. We'll go ahead and click in our footer to begin typing here. In our center section, we'll go ahead and type the text that it wants us to type. We'll go ahead and select that text once we've typed it. We'll go to the Home tab. It tells us to change our font size to 8. And it tells us to go ahead and apply an underline here. And I will note that it did not have us type in the period. You just want to type the text that's in quotation marks here. It tells us to go ahead and put the text content accurate as of and the current time in the right field. So we'll go ahead and put our cursor here in this right section. You might have to click out of that section to be able to go ahead and select the right section. Just keep that in mind. In order to add the current time after we type that text with our cursor here in the footer, we want to go to the Header and Footer Tools Design tab. And once we're on that tab, we can go ahead and select current time. And in the left footer section, we just want to apply the sheet name. And that can also be found here in this section, Header and Footer Elements, sheet name. We'll go ahead and click out of our footer just to make sure that that information's set. And we'll go ahead and check that we completed that task. This task wants us to go ahead and add the value finished to the status field. And then it's also going to have us add Fusion Tomo to the company field. So to do that, what we want to do is go to the File tab here at the top to enter our backstage view. Our tags that we're going to be applying are here. If you don't see what you need, go ahead and click Show All Properties, and it will go ahead and display more. The first one that we're looking for is status, so we'll go ahead and type in finished. Just note, my students tend to hit the space bar here and add extra text, and then they get marked wrong. So keep that in the back of your mind. Don't key in any extra text, just the word. And then the company field, which is this section right here, we want to go ahead and type in Fusion Tomo. We'll go ahead and click out of that just to make sure that text is set, and we'll exit out of our backstage view. We'll go ahead and check that we completed that task.